Hello friends, I'm Eric Hutchinson. I'm the principal broker and owner of Hutchinson Realty. Welcome to video 12 on my video series, How to Buy a Home in Northwest Arkansas. We have talked about a lot of interesting topics going through the Arkansas real estate contract, and today is no different. Today we're going to be talking about those little pesky creatures called termites. Do you have to have a termite policy when buying a home? Is it an option? And should you get one if the house is newer? We're going to be talking about that. Also, we're going to be talking about lead-based paint. What is lead-based paint? And do I need to do an inspection for lead-based paint? We're going to be talking about insurance just a little bit. Should I get homeowners insurance? And do I have to get homeowners insurance if there's a loan involved? And how long do I have to determine if a house is insurable? We're going to be talking about those three things today. So let's get into the data, shall we? Let's go over to page 9 of the Arkansas real estate contract, and we're going to look at item number 19. Now, if you check letter A, it says that you're not getting a termite policy. That's pretty easy. Letter B is what we're going to talk about, and I will tell you that if you're getting a loan on your next house, which most buyers do, your lender is going to require a termite policy. And this paragraph basically says that the seller has to provide a termite policy to you, and they have to order it within 10 business days. That's 2 weeks, during the same time frame that the home inspection is supposed to be done. Once the seller orders the termite control company to come out and take a look at the property, they can take a look at the property. If there are termites, you have the option to back out of the deal if the seller doesn't pay to have the repairs for the termites. And I will tell you that this can save your backside. I had a buyer that bought a house as is this year in 2022, and if he had not checked letter B on this item on the contract, he would have had a house that basically needed to be bulldozed down. My buyer was an investor, and he liked to gut property and to remodel property, which is great. There's no problem with that. However, he did not know that this house was infested with termites. He went back into the property. The seller let us back in the property after we wrote the contract. Everything was accepted. The buyer went back into the property, and he noticed that some of the 2x4s in the walls were a little bit crumbly. He took a hammer and literally he could just tear apart the 2x4s with the backside of the claw on the hammer. It was horrible how much damage the termites had done. So if he had not checked letter B, he would have had to buy that property in its present condition. But since he checked letter B, then the seller had to provide a termite policy that would fix all of the damage, because the termite company wouldn't guarantee it until he fixed the damage. Well, the damage was so severe, the seller said, "I'm not doing it," and my buyer backed out of the deal. So it really saved him to have this checked, even though he checked letter A that he was going to buy the property as is. So it's really important. If you're going to be buying a house as is, or even if you're not, you definitely would want to have termite policy, because I will tell you that if there are trees anywhere near this place, or wood, and most houses are built out of wood, there is an opportunity for termites to infest the place. So most houses are pre-treated and have a termite policy that's passed from one owner to the next, but it's really important. If you are getting a loan, your lender's going to require it, but if you are paying cash, you still would like to get a termite policy, because the damage just could be too extensive. So let's move over to the next topic, which is lead-based paint. Now, I'm not going to read this very long paragraph that's behind me, but I will tell you that back in the 60s or 70s, a child ate a paint chip that was created with lead, and the child died. And so there was a lawsuit, and ever since that lawsuit, a seller has to disclose if the house was built prior to 1978 if there is lead-based paint. Now the problem is most sellers don't know if there's any lead-based paint in the property or not, but there's still a law that says that the seller has to disclose their knowledge of any lead-based paint. And most of the time, it's been my experience that most sellers don't know whether or not there's any lead-based paint or not. So then it pushes over to the buyer of whether or not the buyer wants to inspect the property for lead-based paint. Now let me just be clear about this. The only way to die of lead poisoning is for it to enter your body, to either be ingested or injected into your blood. And so it's highly unlikely that you would get lead poisoning, or that your children would, unless they're going to ingest it. But if this is something that's a concern for you as a buyer, then you need to get it inspected. And I will tell you, it's quite expensive, and they have to do a lot of research, because most houses since 1978 have been painted multiple times. And so I will tell you that if you want the home inspection to include lead-based paint, then you're going to have to pay for that, and it could be quite expensive. But it is a law. In fact, it is a $10,000 fine if the seller does not fill out a lead-based paint disclosure. Now, that disclosure may say that they know nothing about lead-based paint, and then the buyer has to decide whether or not they're going to waive their rights to do an inspection for lead-based paint, or move forward with getting a lead-based paint inspection, and it's very expensive. I haven't seen any of these in my experience. It's been 26 years since I've been in real estate, and I've not seen a buyer do lead-based paint inspection yet, but I have heard of buyers that do, and like I said, it's very expensive. And the contract will be contingent upon the inspection of lead-based paint if you check that on the addendum on the lead-based paint disclosure that the seller will provide for you. So if the house is built prior to 1978, there needs to be a lead-based paint disclosure. That is the law. Now let's move over to insurance. So item 21 talks about insurance, and you've got 10 business days, 2 weeks, to determine whether or not the house is insurable. Now, I will tell you, if you're getting a loan, the lender is going to require that you get homeowners insurance. And if you are paying cash, I would recommend that you get homeowners insurance to prevent some really bad things from possibly happening. There could be an act of God like tornado or hurricane or an earthquake, or you could find out later that something is wrong with the property. There could be a hole in the roof, and then there could be water damage, and the insurance company would take over and hopefully pay for that. So it's really important that you get homeowners insurance. I had one deal where the buyer could not get insurance on the house because it had previous claims on the property, and the buyer could not get insurance, or they couldn't get reasonable insurance. It was going to be really expensive. So it's really important that you check during that 10 business day time period that you're doing the home inspection. Make sure, call your insurance company and make sure that the home is insurable. So guys, that's it for today. I hope that when you're buying your next home, it looks like this. But keep in mind that there are things hidden in the walls, and it's really important that you check for termites, and that you find out whether or not there's been any lead-based paint used in it before, if it was built prior to 1978, and if the house is insurable. So hope that you've enjoyed this informative video. Please come back next time, and we will continue our journey through the Arkansas real estate contract. No matter what, I wish you the very best. May God bless you, and may God bless your home.